Hi, Pat. see if I can do this. Hold on. All right, let's see if we can do this. See if anyone. I think I saw that Path Traveler's here. Hello, Path. How are you? Thank you for popping in. Thank you for visiting. Oh, it looks like I can see the chat this evening. That's a pleasant surprise. Anyway, I'm just putting up this little video because I felt obliged to follow up with the eclipses things, because the video got shut down last night, the night before. Kind of frustrating. Cheers, everyone. So, before we get into this one here, this is just another typical, well, it's not that typical, but it is another Tarot Lumination Astrodoodle. And it's a follow-up from this Astrodoodle at the time of the moon. The full moon, we just had the eclipse, okay? And it was a humongous eclipse on the Taurus-Scorpio axis. So wherever that landed or lands in your chart, that's where you're going to feel it. And it's in a hard square with the Aquarian energy over here with Saturn and a Jupiter, okay? You can see this, a big fat T-square, okay? You know, they call it the T-square because of this kind of structure. Let me see if I can do this. This is why they call it a T-square. Because of the very hard angles here. This is the full opposition, which is one of the hardest, toughest aspects to handle. But if you can handle it, you can really, you know, evolve. But it's under a lot of pressure because it's got two 90-degree forks here with the other planets, okay? So this, they call it a T-square because this, in Western astrology, simplified Tarot Lumination style, this is a big fat T-square, and it's a very stressful alignment. Of course, this is how we evolve and grow. We evolve and grow from our, I guess you could say, challenges in life. And as you've seen on this channel before, I often try to describe eclipses, whether it's, you know, the new moon eclipse or the full moon eclipse. Either way, it's an eclipse. Eclipses tend to eclipse things out of your life in order to basically close the door on that chapter and elevate you to the next section of life where the door opens and you have no other option except to keep going forward because you cannot go back through the other door and you cannot descend down the elevator again. So this is my very simple analogy. I'll just say it again very briefly as a reference for this video tonight. This is the framing of time, and we're talking about the 17th, 18th, and 19th of November 2021 with this full moon eclipse, which I tried to illustrate here. And so I equate on this axis spiritual evolution. So it's a simple graph, spiritual evolution over time. And it tends to happen for most people. Over time, we evolve spiritually, whether it's the easy way or the hard way. And so the way it works is that you're dealing with status quo in your life. You're ticking along, doing the best you can, and then the eclipse comes. You can feel the pressure, and you feel like you're being, cattle herded into the cattle truck or the big elevator, and the door closes here. Then the elevator goes up, and this door opens here while this stays closed, and you are ejected on this side. So you're living like this. Whoa, what just happened? Uh-oh. Whoop. You can resist all you want, but all you're going to do is attract more pain into your life. So you might as well go with the flow. The flow is to evolve. We evolve by accepting the journey and treating it as a gift. Okay? That is the depth of your spiritual evolution. There we go. Anyway, we just had this eclipse, and from my personal experience, it was a very big, profound eclipse. For me, it happened in a couple of ways. And for everyone else, it happens in several ways. I like to look at it through the lens of the solar chart and the lens of the natal chart. So I tried to convey a story the other night about the recent situation with Love Triber where she had to go through major surgery and where there was no option. Eclipses tend to accelerate things. Love Triber felt like she was being squashed through a funnel and a nozzle to the point where there were no options. Things started to move very, very quickly. She went in, got the surgery, came out the other side. She's coming out right now. So this whole phenomenon here, going from here to here to here, was demonstrated in the life of Love Triber by this major spinal surgery. And I can tell you that she's doing very well. It's amazing. It's almost like she's yelling, "Bring it on, come on, let's do this." In fact, it was terrifying for all of us, but we did it anyway. Well done, Love Triber, you're a hero. Now, I want to go on to another aspect of the eclipse, and that is LINA. Some of you know her. She's been here on and off for years. LINA from Argentina. Well, she just did a cover version of one of the Lumination songs. Hello, let me just say hi to everybody over here. Let's see if this works. Hi, good evening. Yeah, I was just talking about LINA from Argentina. Okay, there's Argentina way over here. All right. And LINA did a cover version of the Lumination song, Taste Your Dreams. So I urge you, I invite you to check it out. It's just gorgeous and better than I can do. And it's pure solo. It's very, very, very pure. And it's in the description box below the video. And it's also in the About section when you go to the Lumination channel. So there's 2 links and 2 ways to get to it. And I'm probably going to send it out on the Constant Contact Lumination email. We still have an email list. It's only about 400 people. Of course, you know, like with these bulk mail things, there's only out of that many who get it, there's that many who open it, and that many who read it, and that many that take action. But that's actually pretty good, apparently. Statistically, my, emailing is actually pretty successful. Hello, Maria. I see you. Hi, Pat. I see you. So please, right now, I'm not sure. I haven't figured out a technical way that I could play it for you. But the other way, the third way that you can have a listen is you can just go to terralumination.com, and I just loaded her video right there. I had to do a lot of transferring to get it from LINA over to me onto a way that I can actually, share it with the world. Anyway, I'm very, very, very proud of it. I'm really, really proud that I had a song that got covered and played by someone else, because I'm not very rich or famous, as most of you know, but I'm still a good songwriter. I've got a couple of gems in there. So please, I invite you to explore the Terralumination channel, and you will find a brand new video just uploaded a few hours ago, and it's about LINA singing Taste Your Dreams. Okay? So there you go. Thank you, LINA. Thank you, LINA. You are awesome. I wish I could do more. I'd love to promote you. I'd like to get you on a big stage or something, But anyway, thank you very much. So at the eclipse, it was a big one. It was broadcast all over the world, with video eclipse watchers and eclipse fans and YouTube eclipsers and all that stuff. And it had a very broad, long, slow experience. Each eclipse is different, but there's a map behind me. I hope I didn't break any laws or anything, but it's from inthesky.org or something. And this was a chart of where you could see the eclipse. So over here, you couldn't really see the eclipse at all, okay? It was during daytime, and the path was too far away. Same thing over here, the other side of the world, still on the other side of the world. The eclipse was during the daytime, and you couldn't have seen it, okay? But over here, more or less over the Pacific Ocean, and pretty much all of North America and Central America, and fragments over here in New Zealand, a little bit in Australia, and even maybe a tiny bit up in Japan and Korea and North Korea and so on. You could have had a glimpse of it. If you were right here, living on any one of these lines, you would have seen it very clearly. The best place to see it would probably be here, like Venezuela or Colombia. I don't know if any videographers or Eclipse fans filmed anything. You could have seen it pretty well over in the East Coast in America. I never saw it. I was so tired last night, I just couldn't take it, so I had to go to bed really early. And I stayed in bed for 12 hours because I had already lived the eclipse. Okay, let me go back over here. Thank you, Path. I'm glad somebody appreciates the songs. You know, I've always wanted to leave a legacy. You know, I wanted to leave a footprint on life, on this world and society. A nice one. I wanted to leave a legacy of something valuable. I didn't want to dig a big hole in the ground or build a huge castle with my name all over it. Or, you know, I didn't want to become an evil tyrant and become world famous for being an evil tyrant. I wanted to do something nice, and I liked making pop music and songs, and so I did all that for years. And never quite worked out, but I had a damn good time trying. And some people liked it. Anyway, here's the eclipse. We just talked about this, about spiritual evolution and how it is a very, very time-factored experience. We're going to go on to another eclipse at the end of the year, and then in 2022 we're going to have about 4 more eclipses. Now, when the eclipse was at its maximum peak, like over the last 36 hours, we had these multiple huge oppositions, all in hard squares. Personally, my experience was with the health issues with Love Triber, intensely demanding issues that worked out very well for everybody. And at the time, Mars is in Scorpio, conjoined with Mercury in Scorpio and Sun in Scorpio. And Mars in Scorpio could be delineated or described as the surgeon and the surgeon's knife. And so, in a very highly stressful situation, we had a very successful outcome. These green lines here are very supportive, very harmonious in a very challenging situation. And so luckily, dear Love Triber was a benefactor of this eclipse. Okay? So she's taken years to build up to this point, and then in a matter of days, everything came into a crescendo of experience. We're coming out the other side now, and Love Triber is already making a very good recovery. Okay. Now, another thing that's happened is, this is personal. I'm going to share it with you. I haven't really shared this with anybody, but as you know, sometimes I do readings for people. I do a lot of little private readings and things for any subject, like real estate, finance, consulting, legal, health, family, spiritual evolution, depression, gender issues, whatever it might be, you know, home and family, you know, life's journey, whatever it is. But for myself personally, this particular eclipse was all about money and other people's money. And what I'm going to do right now is share a couple of little things with you. This eclipse brought things into very stark focus for me regarding finance. And realizing that, you know, I have to do something. I got to do something to figure out a way to survive down the road. So I've done a lot of homework in the last year and a half, and a lot of studying, and I've made decisions and I've made commitments in how to make the best of my personal assets, and in terms of, let's say, investing that and sharing that with other people's abilities to maximize other people's assets. So we're talking about the access of money and other people's money. Money and other people's money. And so, how am I going to do this? Give me a second. So we're already moving on here to the afterglow of the eclipse. So already, because the moon moves very quickly, the moon has moved out of the sign of Taurus, conjoined with Uranus, and the moon is already in Gemini, tightly conjoined to the North Node in the very, very last stages about truth, information, and the conveyance of day-to-day business in life in this world in terms of what you could just call commerce. And in the near future, the North Node is going to move over here into the sign of Taurus for about a year and a few months. So the emphasis on money is going to become radically bigger and more important. And even more important than that is the concepts of money. What is money? Where does it come from? Where does it go? How do you get it? How do you spend it? And all those kinds of things. We're heading into a next 20, 25 years of radical global transformation when it comes to the subject of what we call money. So I've been trying to stay ahead of this for a long time because I've been very vulnerable to money issues. And I have a lot of scars to show that. But I'm still alive to tell the tale. And I'd like to share a couple things that I've learned. What I'm going to share tonight is a little bit controversial, because even in the world of controversial subjects of money, my certain subject is even more controversial. But this is what I've learned, and this is what I want to share. So let me do that. I'm just going to freaking do it. Okay? Wonder how I'm going to best do this. Whew. Literally, I'm winging it, people. This is totally improv, okay? So bear with me. All right. Now, cheers, everyone, by the way. I think I'll go over here to start. All right. Some of you have heard of the words cryptos and alternative currencies. You've heard me talk about global financial issues. Some of you know that I wrote a book called Wealth, Money, Finance about global restructuring starting in January 2020, where the actual bomb was dropped. And now here we are at the end of 2021, where it's very, very clear the world has changed irrevocably. The big moment of change was the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter and Pluto in Capricorn at about 24 degrees, January 2020. Now, in a few months, we're going to be heading towards the Pluto return of the United States of America. This Pluto return is the same sort of thing as a Saturn return, a Jupiter return, a Uranus return, a solar return, okay? The thing is about Pluto is that it's so far out, it's very hard for a lot of people to understand or integrate or even be aware that there is an energy field associated with Pluto, because it's all sacred geometry. We're dealing with huge magnetic gravitational fields that keep everything swirling around in what we call our solar system. The gravitational pull between the Earth and the Moon is staggering. It's absolutely mind-boggling that, if we could look at outer space from outer space, you would see this blob called planet Earth, and it has this other blob whizzing around the outside of it. And there's nothing holding it there. There's nothing except gravity. Okay, here's another way to look at it. Gravity is like this, okay? All right? Okay, that was a very loud noise. But, for example, if you jumped off of the top of a skyscraper or a large building, which I've never done, but I actually did what some of those skyscraper divers did without jumping. I went to the top of the highest skyscraper in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I decided I'm going to go where this guy jumped. And he was one of those parachute jumpers, daredevils, to see if he could jump from the top of the skyscraper and open his parachute and land safely before he died. I've had a high-risk lifestyle, but I'm not that crazy. Anyway, it was very, it gave me a lot of vertigo, and it was very scary, but I felt I had to do it. But just in terms of plain Earth here, at ground level, roughly ground level, if you jumped off, a 60, 30, 60, 70, 30 or 60 story skyscraper, hotel, building, or whatever, within a few seconds, you will have accelerated from 0 to about 150 miles an hour. And by the time you hit the ground, that's about 160 miles an hour. So when you hit, it's just splatter, okay? Now, I have been horizontal quite fast, on planes, of course. I've been on airplanes many times. I've been on trains, but I was a motorcycle freak as a kid. And the fastest I ever got on my bike, which was a fabulous motorcycle in its day, was about 125 miles an hour. And I can tell you, I lived again to tell the tale. And I had spectacular crashes. But again, I don't have any major broken bones except for my spine. So, well, that's a major bone. But anyway, so I know what it's like to do 125 miles an hour horizontally. I also know what it's like to do about 60 or 70 miles an hour horizontally and be hit very hard by something. I ended up in the hospital multiple times for situations like this because of other crazy drivers. I was not very lucky. So, that's a lot of force. It's a tremendous amount of force. And that's just a little tiny measure, 60-story skyscraper. So can you imagine the force, the gravitational force that is pulling the moon towards Earth? You get it? You see where I'm coming from? Now the thing about the moon is that it's in outer space and there's nothing to stop it. So it just keeps going around. It's in a place of absolute perfect balance where the gravitational pull that is sucking it towards planet Earth is equalized by the massive momentum energy of its orbit. They are in perfect balance. So basically, from our perspective, we see this thing called a moon that just goes wee for millions of years. It's been around for about 4 billion years. The moon wasn't always here. It formed very early on in our solar system, about 500 million years after Earth was formed. And it's still zooming around today. Anyway, cheers everybody. Thanks for hanging out. Fast forward to today. I was talking about Pluto. And the thing is about Pluto, it's very, very far away. It's way, way out in our solar system. And yet it's there, orbiting. And it orbits very fast, but it's so far away it looks like it's very slow. And because at that distance, the orbital path is a little bit sort of wobbly and distorted. And so, hold on, let me see if I can show you this a little better illustrated. Yeah, let me see if I can do this. I tried to demonstrate this the other evening. So this is our solar system by looking at it from far away on the side. This is not to scale. This is Pluto. Now Pluto is actually way, way out there on the other side of Las Vegas on this map. But on here, on this scale, it's right over there. So in our solar system, all these planets operate on a plane which looks like this. You get it? There's the sun at the center, and all these planets are orbiting like this. Okay? But Pluto orbits at an angle like this, at a slight angle. Okay? And it has a weird gravitational path and a gravitational pull from the sun. And also it is elliptical. The actual Pluto orbit is not a circle. It's like an ellipse. Okay? So for example, when Pluto is in the sign of Taurus, it takes about 35 years. 35 years for Pluto just to go through Taurus. Okay? But at its nearest point, Pluto is in Scorpio, and it takes about 11 or 12 years. So Pluto is very weird. It's very hard for people to understand and live with that energy. But anyway, it's there and it exists. And it's very much related on Earth to do with the power that's outside of us that we cannot control, because it's so big and so deep and so hard to understand. But it still exists in terms of the gravitational pull. Can you just imagine the gravitational map in order to keep... Okay, let me try and do it here. Here's the sun. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. See, Pluto's way out there like this. This is still a perfect gravitational pathway for Pluto. Anyway, what we do with Pluto is we associate it with the highest levels of the most unevolved energy in our systems, in our souls. So if you have a good relationship with Pluto, you're very lucky. If you are out of alignment with Pluto, you're going to have a bumpy ride. That's how it is, okay? It's associated with other people's money and other people's power, because if you don't get your act together with your own gifts and talents and resources, then other people will either exploit it from you, or you will attempt to exploit it from others. Pluto energy is very hard to integrate harmoniously. Anyway, I want to get back to the subject of money. So what I did... The Scorpio-Taurus axis is very much to do with money and other people's money. All over planet Earth, everything is conducted through financial interactions, financial transactions, all the way from an illegal gold miner over here in the middle of South America, all the way to Switzerland and the banks and London, all the way over here to the Federal Reserve and all the big multi-trillion-dollar funds like Vanguard and Fidelity and State and Eaton Vance and BlackRock and all of those people. Google collects billions of dollars in microtransactions every year. Same thing with Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all that kind of stuff. Gazillions of transactions. And it's really just about the flow of energy. Money is a measured form of energy. And there are some spooky people over here, especially in Washington and the Federal Reserve and the American banking system and all the central banking systems across the world, where they are deeply vested in this highly seductive and beautiful optical illusion about money. And we are all slaves to this system. It's called the fiat money system. Fiat means like made up. It's just literally, it's fiction. We're just going to make this happen because we say so. And it's basically what happens here is in the United States, we basically operate the world's biggest legalized Ponzi scheme. And because we do that, it is essentially a weapon against all other currencies, all other societies, all other countries and people. So the other central banks everywhere else in the world realized, oh, if we don't play that game too, we're just going to be victims of these folks here. So now today we have China especially playing the same game. And so it's a currency war. I'm trying to abbreviate everything I put in my book into a few sentences, but we are in World War III, but you can't see it because the war is being conducted in the currency markets. Okay? United States, China especially. And there are millions and millions of people on earth now who realize we're sick of this game. We're just being victimized. We're just being treated like, factory farming. This is the same way. Everybody on earth right now who operates in the fiat system, which is everything, is essentially in some way or another a debt cow, unless you're part of the elite. Okay, I call it the elite. I don't know what else to call them. They're the people. There's about 75,000 people involved in the elite, and they basically are the owners of Earth. They are the owners of the global financial and corporate systems. They own it, and they get their life, their living by owning the system. And the system is composed of debt slaves and debt cows and slave camps, basically the world population. The whole of the United States is being farmed as a debt farm. We all know this. I've done this. We did this years ago. The debt farm, okay? Credit cards, college loans, car payments, mortgages, business loans, and so on and so on and so on, where your whole life is about debt. The only reason we have those bits of paper in our pocket is because of debt. They're all built on debt, okay? All the money that they print up here is digital and paper, and it comes out of nothing. It comes out of nowhere. There's no intrinsic value to it. It comes from, they call it modern money theory and so on. And it's a massive scam. It's basically like me telling you I am God. And I'm going to create these amazing bits of paper. And they look so awesome. And they're so complicated that no one else could copy them. And I'm going to issue these bits of paper. And I'm going to declare that they are very valuable. Okay? But I didn't work to do any of that. I just came up with this scheme. And that's what they do. And people are sick of it because a lot of people are starting to realize, we're sick of being debt cows. We're sick of being on a slave camp. I learned my stuff the hard way years and years and years ago. But I'm starting to see validation in my lessons by watching a couple people that I really like. These are very, very tiny, these are very small channels on YouTube. But they are the most advanced people on earth when it comes to finance, okay? The last person you want to talk to is your financial advisor. I'm just going to put some names out there, okay? I'm not pumping this. No one's paying me to do any of this, but you need to watch Mark Moss, okay? You need to watch George Gammon. You need to watch Lynette Zhang. You need to watch Robert Kiyosaki. Those are just a few of them, okay? They'll give you a glimpse into what's actually happening. You might want to study Michael Maloney or Jim Rickards or Jim Rogers and so on. You might want to watch Peter Schiff. These are all people who understand the truth about money, and they're trying to convey the messages across earth. But it's very, very hard because the gods of money over here and over here don't want you to know what's actually going on, because that would be the end of their scam. Anyway, there are people who've been trying to figure out how to get out of the scam and actually enjoy the wealth that we earn, work for, and create in our lives without it being stripped away like we're being harvested and carved and shaved like a piece of, beef at the deli aisle. I know I'm sick of it. I opted out years ago, and I survived way, way out on the fringes. And I've made a lot of sacrifices because I decided I don't want to play that game anymore. I'm still just as involved in the fiat world as everyone else is, but I have a parallel life, and I'm building a parallel life, which I'm hoping in the next 10 or 15 years will manifest into what I would call my new life. More and more people are waking up to this stuff. A few smart people figured out there is a way to deal with it. Oh, I see some notes there from Path Traveler. Yeah, including BlackRock and Citadel. Thank you very much. Hello, Robin. I see you. And so, I think it was in the 60s or the 70s, people were starting to talk about, what are we going to do? No, it's more like the 90s. People were starting to talk about, 1990s, people were starting to figure out, we've got to find a way around the fiat system. The fiat system went absolutely berserk in 1971 when President Nixon said goodbye to the gold standard. The fiat system became permanently embedded and infected into the United States financial system in 1913 when the Federal Reserve Bank was approved and the Internal Revenue System was approved by the federal government here in Washington. Today, we are in a collusion where the Federal Reserve banking system owns Washington, D.C., okay? Washington, D.C. works for the banks, the bankers, and the Federal Reserve. And in the original founding of this country, the federal government was supposed to be just a small component that acts as a, let's say, a touchstone for the rest of the independent and intelligent beings across the United States. And all they're supposed to do is observe and monitor global commerce and global law and try and keep things in order, and plus maintain a military as necessary to conduct war if we have to protect our interests in our most noble way. But everything has become very, very sick and perverted as we come to the very closing chapters of the Pluto cycle, where the energy of Pluto has devolved to the lowest and the most obscene and corrupt and evil you can possibly imagine. And more people across Earth are starting to wake up. And in the way that it's most obvious is with finance, especially global finance. So today, here we are, 2021, but when Pluto entered Capricorn around 2008, 2009, as some of you know, there was a massive global financial implosion. Oh dear. The banks realized that we can get out of this because we own the government. And so they basically commandeered this fellow called Barack and instructed him to bail them out. Just give us the money, okay? And the taxpayers will pay for it. And so that's what happened. And here we are in 2021. It's the same thing, only it's expanded and multiplied billions of times over. And they're running out of the game. The game is over. You have to understand, this game is over. We're reaching an epoch moment in history where the global financial system as we know it is going through a slow motion controlled demolition. You're barely going to notice that it's happening, and by the time it's over, it's too late. So you've got to figure out how can you get ahead of this now. Because the implosion started in 2009. Okay? We're actually witnessing face into the implosion now on a global scale at 2021. But it's really going to hit in 2022, 2023. Some people, smart mathematicians and code writers in the world of computers, figured out, you know what? We got to figure an alternative pathway around this because we can't officially stop the fraud. We can't stop the fiat system. We can't stop the Federal Reserve. We can't stop the federal government. We can't stop China printing money. We can't stop South America, Europe. We can't stop them. But we as tiny individuals need to do something to protect ourselves. And so they did. And they invented this thing called Bitcoin. Bitcoin is what's called a cryptocurrency. Crypto means like secret, invisible, or hidden. And that's the whole idea, is that it was a completely alternative currency that was designed to maintain its value no matter what, and do it in secret outside of the fiat system. Here we are 10 years later, 11, 12 years later, and Bitcoin and the crypto markets are the biggest things on earth now, bigger than the stock market. Today, I think even with the big crashes that we had in the last day with the eclipse, we're still looking at $2.5 trillion for market capitalization. And so it's turning into this like frothy, fermenting, exciting world for people across the world. They're starting to look into this. They're starting to think, what? Well, this is very interesting, okay? And what's happened now is I've been watching this for several years, but more of like from the sidelines, because it's very hard for me to participate, because you actually have to have money to participate. You have to be able to invest. But anyway, I found a way to get in and make little nuggets. I'm kind of operating like a squirrel. And so, where we are today is we have a very big, unstoppable, and expanding world of cryptocurrencies. And this is a financial world that represents an alternative to the fraud under which we are all living at the moment. And in the very, very front lines, we have El Salvador. Okay? El Salvador has adopted Bitcoin as a national currency that can be used alongside the dollar. They're the first country in the world to do it. It's very, very controversial, because the reality is that Bitcoin is extremely volatile. In principle, it is pure money. It's pure money. It is not fake money. It's pure money. It's real money. The worse things get with inflation and economies and politics across the world, the more valuable Bitcoin becomes. And that's the whole purpose of Bitcoin, is to provide a safe haven for you and anyone else who wants to step out of the debt farm, step away from the slave camps of China and the United States and Western Europe, and start to reclaim some of the value of your hard work and your talents, and then to store that value like a squirrel without some very smart people up here stealing it from you. Remember, a lot of people in America are conditioned to be debt cows and debt slaves. Same thing in China. A lot of people, like in the last 20, 30 years, they're born and raised to believe that the way to success and happiness is through debt. You have to go to school to get a job, to earn money, to get credit, to buy cars and buy houses and vacations and pay off your college, and so on, to the point where your whole life is dedicated to paying debt and then incurring new debt, and so on. That is the debt farm. You are being farmed. Any of you out there watching this, if you have a credit card or a car payment, a mortgage, a college loan, a business loan, all going through the system, you're a debt cow. Okay? It works for them. That's how they make their money, by farming you. You work harder and harder and harder for less and less and less. That pisses me off. That started to piss me off years ago. I said, I'm not playing this game anymore. And so I opted out. And I'm really, partly in some ways, I'm really suffering from being opted out, because I don't believe in that game, so there's a lot of things I basically had to sacrifice. On the other hand, I feel a sense of liberty because I don't consider myself a complete debt cow. I am still fully dependent on the system itself, but I'm aware of what's happening, let's put it that way. It's sort of like being part of the underground resistance movement in Europe during World War II, where I know we're at war, I know I'm at war, I know in some ways I'm destitute, but at least I'm aware. And I'm looking for alternatives in terms of truth, honesty, survival, integrity, value. And so, back to the subject of cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. So some of you know a lot about this already. Some of you may never have heard about it. But it is the way of the future, and it's not going to stop. It's not going away. And it's like a fermentation right now. There's a lot of scams and fake things going on. There's a lot of human behavior which is being exposed as very innocent and vulnerable. And there's a lot of smart people who are exploiting that. And they're just as evil as the folks over here with the original fraud system. But there are some good, honest people inside this alternative world who really, truly, actually have your best interests at heart. Wow, I just did something really cool. The person that I'm talking about, his name is Richard Hart. And just like Satoshi Nakamoto and Vitalik Buterin and Charles Hodgkinson and David Schwartz, who were these big figures in the cryptocurrency world, there's this other fellow, Richard Hart. Now, Richard Hart is highly controversial in the cryptocurrency world because he's literally one of these. The only thing he cares about are facts, truth, honesty. Anything that does not compute at that level is okay. And he decided, I guess he's been in it for about 8 years. He decided, you know what, screw this. I'm a highly intelligent being. I'm highly gifted with math and code. I have good friends and connections and relationships in the crypto world. I'm going to start my own frickin' crypto. I'm just going to do the same thing that those guys did. It's only been going for about 10 years officially. There's nothing to stop me, so that's what he did. And he created his own crypto. And now he is in the top 5 in terms of global market capitalization for cryptocurrencies. But you'd never know it because none of the exchanges or the market visualizations represent him. The reason they don't represent him is because he doesn't play their game. If you want to be represented in cryptocurrencies, to have your new amazing project shown all over the world so you can make a ton of money as a founder and maybe rip some people off, you have to pay the marketplace to put you on display. And that in itself is a form of corruption. And so this fellow, Richard Hart, he said, screw all of this. I'm just going to make the crypto. I'm just going to put it out there and I'm going to let it live its life. He created it so that it is a standalone entity. It is totally 100% decentralized. It's not controlled. There are no executive leaders who can switch the button on or off or manipulate the code or exploit it in any way. It was designed with mathematical purity from the very beginning. It was designed with ethical purity from the beginning. It was designed as a humanitarian gesture, as a gift to humanity from the beginning, from the very, very beginning. Now, he's not stupid. He figured out, well, I deserve to be rewarded for this. So he created a structure that allowed him to be rewarded so he could basically cash in some of his talent. And so he's doing very well personally, but his own wealth is microscopic compared to the wealth and the investment of some of the people on board with his particular currency. The thing about this currency is that it's controversial because it kind of goes against all the other patterns of all the other cryptocurrencies. All the other cryptocurrencies are very interested in maximum growth, maximum power, maximum profit, maximum exploitation, maximum trading opportunity straight out of the box. Bitcoin is a classic example. If you look at the charts, if you start watching charts for the growth of Bitcoin from when it was a few pennies to a few dollars to a few hundred to a few thousand and now up to $50,000, $60,000 or whatever, it started from nothing. It's invented. It's just a piece of computer code written by this guy, Satoshi Nakamoto, apparently. And, you know, if I was an amazing code writer, I'd probably make up my own currency too. But I'm not one of those people. But I'm smart enough to be able to recognize someone else who is smart and someone else who has integrity and honesty. And the reason I am interested in this is because I feel like I'm on a similar frequency to this fellow, because he literally does not give up about what anybody thinks about him. He's a strange character, and he comes from the heart, and his name is Richard Hart. He's in the same league, if not beyond, Vitalik Buterin, David Schwartz, Satoshi Nakamoto, and those guys at the very core of the original crypto, Charles Hodgkins, all those guys at the core of the crypto industry, the crypto world, which is going to be the new money coming forward. And what he's decided to do is like, I'm not going to do any marketing. I don't do that. This little thing has to sustain itself purely on its own integrity. So he doesn't pay any money to anybody anywhere out of his own money or out of the control system or the headquarters of his currency to try and promote this thing. The only reason this currency exists today is because it is so awesome and it's so pure, and it's so hard to understand because no one else operates this way. Everyone else is operating in a very exploitive manner, okay? Anyway, I'm going to do something a little bit controversial. I'm going to share with you. And this is my little eclipse video. And it's the after effects of the eclipse, because I realized, you know, I feel like I have an obligation to do this. So let me go over here. I'm going to put one word on here. And for some of you, I know you're already deeply into cryptocurrencies, because like myself, you're starting to look for ways to learn and understand about these things. There are a lot of resources on YouTube where you can learn and study about this stuff. It can be very complicated, very confusing, and disorienting because it is disruptive. It is completely new to humanity, and it is the pathway of the future. It is essentially an invention. Okay? It's not an innovation. An innovation is something that's already happening and somebody made an improvement. An invention is something like Tesla with the electricity, or the guy who made Kodak cameras or something, or the invention of actual viable flight from the Wright brothers, or the steam engine, or the internal combustion engine, or the original first knife, or the original first scissor, or something like that. An invention is something that exists now that never existed before, and it's ultimately designed for the benefit of humanity. Well, that is cryptocurrencies. And inside the world of cryptocurrencies, there are thousands of cryptocurrencies. There's only a few that make any sense or have any real value, and I've already made my decisions in that there's a lot of it I don't want anything to do with it, because in some ways I'm a very simple or simple-minded person. I just want to be able to survive while everything else is falling apart, okay? And this is the currency. I'm going to write it out here. Now, why did my cameras go out of focus? What the hell happened? Oh, okay. That's it. It's pretty much all you need to know. As far as I'm concerned, this is the future. I have my existing life as it is, but I've done enough homework and I've made enough decisions and I'm willing to take enough risks to make this my basic portfolio, if you want to call it, for the future, for the rest of my life and beyond. I am putting everything that I can into hex. And it's complicated. And it's controversial. Okay? I'm going to go back over here for a minute. Cheers. Cheers. Now, if you start doing homework on cryptocurrencies, if you're one of these people who's starting to realize, my God, there's a lot of weird stuff going on planet Earth, politics, money, finance, bugs, diseases, and everything. I mean, I can get into so much trouble so quickly talking about those subjects. But my main concern right now is that I felt tonight, I feel in order to be honest with myself, if I'm going to live with myself, I can't just be kind of like this. I can't do it. In the currency that I just described, the only place you'll see it listed is on a place called Coin Paprika. Coin Paprika, alongside Coin Market Capital and CoinGecko and a few others, are the places where people all across the world watch the activity in the crypto markets. Okay? The reason why Hex is almost invisible is because Richard Hart made a decision. I am not going to be Mr. Hex. I am Richard Hart. I created this, but it exists in its own right. And I don't want to pay millions and millions of dollars and bow down to these marketplace advertising portals to shout out to the world about Hex. I want Hex to live purely on its own integrity. In other words, you will never ever find it or understand it or know about it unless it is a match for you. So I studied more and more about Hex. I know how to get in. I know how to get out. It requires precision and a lot of nerve. I know how to do it. And I've done it. And I'm seeing the benefits. In the world of Hex, there are a lot of multimillionaires who believed in the vision of Richard Hart very early on. Because obviously Richard Hart already had good connections and relationships in the world of crypto and coding. And he still does, but essentially he's kind of like a rogue. You know, he doesn't go out there promoting the currency. He stands up for it. He explains things when people ask questions, but he doesn't tell you what to believe or how to do it. He doesn't sell anything. He just comes up with raw facts and truth and information, which is so profoundly simple and true that it's mind-boggling. And then you start to go like, oh my God. And that's why I've decided to go along with this one as opposed to that one, or go opposed to this one or that one, okay? So, what is starting to happen is that there is a tiny number of people in the world crypto community who are starting to realize that this is something very unique and special. It's completely outside the rest of all the other cryptos, even though it's right in the world of cryptos. If you go to Coin Paprika and you look at all the charts and the markets, you will see that Hex is actually very big, but nobody knows it's there. The thing about Hex is that the people who are vested in Hex, they are in it for the big time and the long term, okay? They are not traders. They are not there to make a fast buck or get a quick win or whatever. They're not adrenaline junkies. They are the last people to do that. And that's the difference between Hex and Bitcoin, or Hex and Ethereum, or, yeah. This might sound like I'm working for Richard Hart. I'm not. I'm not getting paid to do anything here. I'm just sharing what I have discovered and what I believe to be true. What I believe is that Hex is better than Bitcoin. I believe Hex is a better version of Bitcoin. And I believe that the new, what's called Ethereum fork that's coming up, is a better version of Ethereum. Now, it might sound like I'm talking off the top of my head. If anybody wants to get into this seriously, I would be very happy to do, some kind of private thing. I don't know, maybe we should do a private show or a group thing, because it's taken me a lot of work to understand this thing, how to get in, how it works, how to exist in this world where I'm invested in Hex. And I'm starting to learn from other people. And the deeper I go into it, the more kind of warm and fuzzy I feel on the inside. Because it's just completely contradictory to everything else out there. Bitcoin is amazing for what it is, because it is literally the new gold standard. Literally, it is the new gold standard. But it is so new on a global scale. And it's actually about 10 years old, 11 years old in existence. But on a global scale, it's still very, very new. I believe the cryptocurrencies, and Bitcoin in particular, will not come into full prominence until the next 10, 20, 25 years. And after that, everything will be a total new world order when it comes to money and finance. And that's going to change the whole world economy, the whole world political and governance systems. Because what we're going to have is an Aquarian, as in Pluto and Aquarius, epochal moment in human history where we're going to start to get rid of the pyramidal structures. And we're going to actually give human beings, especially, for example, in a place like El Salvador, where you're going to have a chance to retain the value of your sweat and labor and love and energy that you put out. Right now, the big shiny thing is Bitcoin. Pretty much everybody's heard of it now. And it's very real, it's very big, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger. The thing about it is that it's extremely volatile. It goes way up, it goes way down. It's not like a dollar bill, which is a dollar bill is a dollar bill. So there's a lot of exploitation and trading that goes along in the Bitcoin world, where highly sophisticated, highly intelligent people in the finance world who understand trading, they know how to exploit the Bitcoin market for their benefit at the expense of the innocent. Okay? Get it? That's trading. People who trade Bitcoin, I have some incredible respect for some of these traders. They are highly gifted. And it's a purely esoteric experience. But what happens in highly successful advanced trading is that the successful trader makes all their money by taking money from other people who do not have the skills, talent, or wisdom or experience. So there are a lot of people in the world of crypto, especially Bitcoin, who are getting burned, savaged, destroyed. Bitcoin's amazing, but I don't want to be destroyed and ripped to shreds by people who are smarter than me. And so that's why I decided to look at the hex thing, because the hex thing that confounds all of it. Hex is still volatile, like all cryptos, but it is much less volatile. And hex runs on a completely different principle. Bitcoin is measured by proof of work, sort of like the way that gold is measured in terms of value. With hex, it's measured in proof of time. In other words, with the hex currency, as an investor, you are incentivized through mathematical purity and mathematical code to invest for the long term. And your earnings are based on inflation, the same way that Bitcoin earns through miners. And so I decided to dip my toe in and learn as I go. And I'm very happy. It's still very, very early days, but I wanted to share with you because I felt like if I was keeping this private, it feels like I'm hoarding something very valuable, which really needs to be shared with the world. The way that hex works is that you invest for the long, long, long term. You're not out to make a fast buck. You're not a trader. If you're a trader, go to Bitcoin. If you want to invest long term, hex is the way to go. Thing is, nobody knows about this stuff yet. I would love to do a much more in-depth show about this, purely about hex, because it's a foundational part of my life now, and that's how things are going to go forward. And I'm setting it up so that it operates on autopilot, because I'm not a trader. If I was a trader, and which is what I tried to do, and I did get some success, but I decided I do not want to live in front of a computer screen 8, 10, or 12 hours a day to get my moment where I go kaboom and make my win. Because the reality is I had a lot of losses just to make my mega wins. I don't want to live that way. I want slow and steady. So that's what I'm doing. Anyway, let's go back over here for a second. I just wanted to share with you tonight. It's nothing to do with tarot or astrology, but it's very much to do with the eclipse and the subject of money as identified by the eclipse on the Taurus-Scorpio axis. Again, that's the thing that I showed over here. Scorpio and Taurus are the money houses. Okay? So if anyone's interested, you can get in touch with me here, a little book about it, yahoo.com, and I will help you. Believe me, I'm not an expert, but I can help you. There are a few channels on YouTube that are dedicated and devoted to hex because there are a small number of hex fans, like they call them hexicans. These are people, mostly young people, who figured it out and who understand what it's really, really about. And there are people who have basically allocated their whole financial portfolio into the hex world because they've decided that they don't want to trade. They don't want to sit like in a casino all day trying to make a buck. They want to guarantee their wealth 5, 10, 15 years from now. The way to do it is this. The way that Richard Hart describes it is this. It's a long-term digital certificate of deposit. I'll say it again. Richard Hart, the creator, the founder of Hex, describes it as his gift to the world. It's totally self-sustaining, and it translates into what amounts to a crypto certificate of deposit. What is a certificate of deposit? Well, if you went to your bank, imagine you went to Chase, Wells Fargo, US Bank, PNC, what are the other big ones? Anyway, all the big banks, they offer things that are called certificates of deposit. And what it is, it's like a long-term financial commitment. You make a contract with the bank. You give them, what, $10,000, $100,000, $1 million. And you sign a thing, and you create a thing called a certificate of deposit. And it's a time-based agreement. You agree with the bank, I am a smart dude. I'm going to put my money in your hands. I'm going to give you $1 million. And I agree to leave it there with you. And in return, you pay interest to me. And it worked really well, like in the 50s and 60s and the 70s, but after that it started to fall apart because the gold standard disappeared. But we still have certificates of deposit today, but what you're earning is like 0.5% or 1% on interest. Richard Hart explains this a lot better than I can possibly do. But anyway, the thing is with the hex world, is it's essentially a long-term certificate of deposit, and you create your own structure. And from there, you can basically relax in the certainty that over an extended period of time, not a day, not a few hours, but we're talking about years or several years, up to 15 years, you're going to guarantee your wealth with very significant returns. Very significant returns that could only come through mathematical purity and mathematical code that is designed to operate that way. The beautiful thing about hex is it's just free. It's a freakish thing because it has this what's called correlation. The correlation between its value and truth over time is real, and it's measurable, and it shows up statistically. There's no other currency that does that. Nothing else in the world does that. There's nothing. Bitcoin doesn't do it. Nothing does that. The traditional certificates of deposit do that, but in a very, very pathetic, abusive, exploitive way. Hex is purely about you. It's purely how you can invest in yourself and pay yourself. No, Path, I never said, did you read any Reddit posts on Hex? No. So, by the way, there's a lot of people who believe that Hex is the biggest scam in crypto. You have to make your own decisions, make your own choices. I've done my own research, and I've decided on what I did and what I'm doing. The reason it's controversial is because Richard Hart is controversial. He can be very insulting towards the people who are aiming for exploitation And there are a lot of people who are trying to tear him down and trying to tear down his currency. He doesn't really even own it. He's already given it to Earth, to humanity. And he owns crypto hex himself. And he's already done extremely, extremely well out of it. And hex is just growing. Hex is even what they call pre-viral. It hasn't even picked up yet. But here's a big thing. I'll tell you. One of the reasons that I decided to speak up tonight about this is because of the extreme controversy surrounding the hex currency. I allocate that to the T-square on the charts. The axis of the T down here is all about the Aquarian energy of what is good for humanity, what is not just exploitive for Richard Hart or the individual or some, people at the top of a centralized currency, like XRP, for example. Richard Hart created something that is completely decentralized. If he died tomorrow, it wouldn't make any difference. You can't sue Hex. You can't sue Richard Hart. You can't stop it. It's its own thing. It lives purely on the belief system that it's true. And it's true because the math is true. And that is a real problem for a lot of people. So there are a lot of people who are trying to take him down. They're trying to deny and smear the hex currency, the hex coin, the hex value. A lot of it is because they don't understand it. But anyway, it's there. It's happening and it's not going away. It's number 4 or number 5 in terms of global market capitalization in cryptocurrencies. It's big. It's big, big, big. But guess what? The liquidity is tiny. Very few people trade hex. People who are into hex, they invest. They're investing like certificates of deposit. They're in for the long, long, long term, okay? Yeah. Oh, thank you, Path. I didn't know that. Anyway, it's all over the place, and I guarantee, I don't know when it's going to be, but there's going to become a point where everyone on Earth is going to realize, like, wow, this is actually kind of cool. And today, right today, I don't know if anybody here has heard of this fellow. His name is Robert Kiyosaki. He is one of the most highly acclaimed, like, financial, let's say, lightning rods on Earth. He has a vast network of multimillionaires and multi-billionaires with whom he connects. And he's extremely wealthy and successful himself because he made it his business to find a way out of the fake fraud system that we have now as led by the United States. His name is Robert Kiyosaki, and he was just participating in a hex group meeting with a bunch of hexicans. Robert Kiyosaki was right there, and some of these hexicans are, extremely wealthy. Okay, they've already participated. They started early, and they're already seeing the benefits. And they kind of said, okay, well, Robert, you've done your homework. What do you think of hex? Do you think it's sort of like a Bitcoin? And then Robert Kiyosaki goes like, yeah, I've done a lot of homework on the hex thing, and I gotta tell you, I'm really looking at it. And he kind of gave it like a hint smiley face. And then one of the other hexicans basically said, okay, Robert, why don't you just tell us? You're one of the most famous, like, financial go-to people for human beings who are interested in understanding what really goes on in the world of money and what are we going to do about it. Like Path Traveler said, he is famous for his original book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. A lot has happened since then, but Robert Kiyosaki is still very active in the financial consulting world. He is a voice for sanity. And so these hexicans, and they're all a bunch of crazy, fun-loving people, but they understand what's happening. And one of them said, okay, Robert, tell me, be honest with me, Robert. How do you feel about Hex? Do you feel it is a better thing than Bitcoin? Because Bitcoin is touted and believed to be basically, the bedrock of cryptocurrencies going forward. The new digital gold, as they call it. Bitcoin's not going away. There are whole countries that are transforming their economies through Bitcoin. Okay? There are huge chunks of Wall Street and the London stock markets in China, but not China, but a lot of other places. They are transforming their whole economies through cryptocurrencies, but most specifically through Bitcoin. Bitcoin itself is still very controversial, but Hex is much more controversial than Bitcoin because Hex is very simple and very pure, and it removes all the really unstable stuff about Bitcoin. And so when they asked Robert, these are just a bunch of chatty guys on a little obscure YouTube video, but they nailed down Robert Kiyosaki. And they said, okay, Robert, just tell us, what do you think? Which is better, Bitcoin or Hex? Come on, Robert, tell us. And then Robert goes, Hex is better. That's it. So when I saw that video today, literally about 5 hours ago, I decided, you know what? I'm just a little minnow in a very big ocean. But if Robert Kiyosaki says it's good, I believe in the guy. He's done so much work. He's highly validated, highly credited. I thought, you know what? If he's willing to say it on camera that Hex is good and Hex is better than Bitcoin, then I'm going to give myself the green light to voice my own beliefs because I did a lot of my own homework and research. I've spent endless hours on the computer and with math and trying this and trying to test things. And I decided, you know what? Hex is good. Not only that, it's better. And not only that, it's the best. As far as I am concerned, Hex is the best. So I am reallocating everything in my life, in my world, to configure with Hex. But you have to understand, it is like a certificate of deposit. You don't have to get on there every day and play it like a video game. Oh, I made a ton of money. Oh shit, I lost a lot of money. No, it's not like that. You get in, you make your commitment and your decision, and then you go off and live the rest of your life. So that's how I'm operating right now. It's very, very early days for me, but I just wanted to let you guys know. Just wanted to share that. This is my eclipse message. This is my after eclipse party, after party from the eclipse. Post eclipse notes. So I'm going to go back over here. If anyone's interested, it's very, very important that you do your own homework. You've got to do your own homework. You can't just take my word for it. You can't just go like, oh, well, Robert Kiyosaki said it's good, so it must be good. You have to do your own homework. Because for some people, this is not going to work. If you are kind of like a firebrand and you're out to make a quick buck, or you want to you're addicted to instant gratification, walk away. This is not going to work for you. If you understand the purity of math and the mission behind Hex, then you might want to consider it. I'm not going to say anything more. This is all you need to know, okay? Okay? So you can go on to you can do all the stuff online and do your own homework. It's all out there. And if anybody starts to get to the point where I think, I want to do this, I can show you how to do it because it's a very... anyway, I know how to do it. So I'll help you if you need help, okay? But in the meantime, you have to make your own decisions. Hex. Okay, there. I'm not going to say anything more. I've said what I had to say. There you go, people. Thank you very much. I'm not doing any readings tonight. I still have 3 people where I owe readings, and I'm hoping I can be here on Sunday. I hope I won't get shut down or anything. I'm going to wrap it up. We all have lives to live. Thank you very much for hanging out and listening. I'm not getting paid to do any promotion for Hex, but if somebody wants help, I'll give you a hand. I'll go into it deeper. If anybody wants like a group consultation, fine, we can plan that out. But you got to do your research. You got to do your homework. You got to do your own homework. Okay. All right. So let's. You know what? Let's just leave it at that. You know, I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm going to play a little tune and then say good night.